there are three different types of people that you should be looking for in that room. So usually when we walk into a networking room, people are looking for one type of person. Who are they usually looking for? A client, right?
You're tuned in to the Event Gems podcast, the podcast where coaches, consultants, and speakers learn how to produce transformational and profitable events. I'm your host, Natasha Wright, Chief Experience Curator at the Diamond Butterfly. Join me and other industry experts as we teach you how to maximize the power of your next brand building event. Time to drop those gems. Let's fly. Hey, Trailblazers, welcome to another episode of Event Gems, where you uncover the hidden gems to host impactful and profitable events. Today, I'm going to be joined by Deana Jean, and she is an award-winning master connector and business strategist with over 15 years of sales and executive leadership experience, and a heart for community and collaboration. Guided by goals, gifts, and gaps framework, Deana and her team partners with entrepreneurs and organizations across the globe to achieve intentional excellence. So without further ado, let's welcome our guest today on the Event Gems podcast. Hey, Deana.
Hey, what's going on? How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me on the Event Gems podcast.
I appreciate it. I love talking about events, and listen, I love dropping gems. So this is going to be good.
Yeah. And I actually met Deana at an event. I went to an event for one day in Atlanta, connected with her. And so just based on that connection, I was like, you know what? I feel like she would be a great guest to have on the podcast, because a part of events is really about collaborations, whether that be collaborating with contractors, collaborating with speakers, and also the collaboration that you have with attendees too. I'm excited for us to dive into this conversation and talk more about it. Well, before we dive deeper into the collaboration portion of it, how did you even get here to be the collab queen? Yeah.
Listen, so I mean, I'm gonna try to keep it tight and right?
Okay.
So my career started in sales leadership, training, and development in the tech industry. And what I noticed about doing sales and training sales in that industry was that the folks who did the best and were the least burnt out were the ones who actually focused on creating relationships versus having transactional conversations. And that was how I was able to thrive in that industry, even being in a position where in many instances, I was the youngest and only Black woman. And that allowed me to be able to really and truly accelerate my career, but also find opportunities to consult and find opportunities to support people. And I found that I was a natural connector. So eventually, when I pivoted into entrepreneurship and I was doing consulting in sales and marketing and go-to-market consulting, what I realized people were coming to me for in the entrepreneurial side was to be connected, to find community, to find space where they could feel safe to share ideas, to find people that they could book for podcasts, for events, people that they could do dope stuff with that were vetted. Right? That they knew had real businesses, that they knew were going to come with the same energy that they came with. So I started making these introductions to folks. And eventually people were saying, oh my God, Deana, you do this so well. I've been looking for a person to support me with this. I've been looking for this type of client. I've been looking for this type of collaborator for so long. You introduced me to this person, but where can I meet more people like this? And I was like, oh, I know a bunch of people. And that was how we created a community focused specifically on collaboration. And it just kind of flew and grew from there.
Yeah, I think that's so awesome when you talked about relationship building, how important that was in terms of the organizations that you were working with previously. When we go to events or we meet people, sometimes, especially as business owners, it can be transactional. It can be, well, what do you do? Or trying to think of ways that perhaps you could pitch a person, or the person is thinking about ways that they could potentially pitch you. I recently went to a networking event and it was literally just like card shoving. And I'm like, I literally pitch you.
I don't want to do this. And that's exactly right. What I was finding was that what we were attracting into our network before we even knew what it was were more women, specifically BIPOC women, who just were not happy with or comfortable with the good old boys networking strategies, right? Ones who really wanted to be able to build relationship Because at the end of the day, my experience has been that when you have relationship with people, it's much easier to organically have business and opportunities pop up because people do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the fact that you talk about events so much on this show, because for me, events has been the way to really stand out from the sea of entrepreneurs and the sea of people that we're inundated with online, right? If you're gonna make the effort to show up in person for a thing, right? I flew in from New York to come to the Atlanta event. That made me stand out, right? And then the connections that you build there, because other people are there in that space too, they've put in a certain amount of effort. So you have already gotten a little further down in your funnel. It's much more likely that you're gonna find a good match.
What you talked about in terms of like connecting at events too, from my perspective, a lot of times when I see in marketing material and people talking about events, they're like, well, connect with like-minded people. Who are the like-minded people, right? Yes, it could be women business owners, but there are different women business owners, right? And so a lot of times that comes from whomever is curating that space or whomever is curating that event. And the people is that it's gonna come from that host or that leader, like people who are naturally aligned with that message of that person, or are naturally aligned with whomever that person is. And so from that perspective, they will be like-minded. This person might be very much similar to me in terms of like how they think, how they navigate, how they do business. And another thing that you were talking about with the know, like, and trust factor, you and I were talking behind the scenes about this client that I had wanted to work with for a long time, probably like over a year. I had been emailing them, following up on all those things. It hadn't happened. Heard crickets. It was silencio. No one got back to me until a friend of mine who recently joined their board, and she told them about my services, and literally right like probably 15 minutes after she told me that she told them about me, they followed up and say, hey, you came highly recommended. We'd love to learn more about your service and we'd love to work with you. So can you talk about that piece of it? How do you build those intentional connections with people so that whether or not they've worked with you before, and my friend have worked with me before, but I'm guessing that there are some people in your network who they haven't necessarily worked with a woman in your tribe before, but they know that based on who you are, that these women are vetted, right? So can you talk about building those intentional relationships, and how do you move that relationship forward once you've built it?
Yeah, great question. So it's all about when you walk into a room, when you walk into a networking event, assuming that you can serve everyone in that room in some way, but understanding that it's not always going to be an exchange of currency. It's not always going to be an exchange of money. So I tell people all the time, when you walk into a room, there are 3 different types of people that you should be looking for in that room. So usually when we walk into a networking room, people are looking for one type of person. Who are they usually looking for? A client, right? They're looking for a client, and they're approaching everybody like, you can be my client. Hey, what do you do? Oh, I sell books. All right, well, great. Well, I'm a marketing person. I can help you market your book. Hey, what do you do? I'm a marketing person. Oh, I'm a marketing person too, but I'm marketing on social media. I can help you, right? Right? So yes, you could meet potential clients inside of a room, but there are 2 other types of people that you don't want to miss out on when you go to events. One is a champion. Exactly what you mentioned, Tasha. So at the end of the day, your champion, right, is going to be a person who can say your name in a room who has influence in a room where you're not present, and they can get you further along in the sales cycle, right? So if I am reaching out to you and I am pursuing you, right, as a champion, what I'm doing is I'm making it so that the next time that you're in a room and you hear that somebody has what I need or needs what I have, you're saying, I know Deana does collaboration. You should connect with her, right?
Yeah.
The way that you ingratiate yourself to champions is you yourself become a champion. One of my favorite things to do when I go to events is when I meet people and I connect with them, I am curious about what they do. And then I usually take some type of picture or selfie of them, or I take a photo of them giving their talk and I post about it on social media.
That's good.
I expose my audience and people that know me to this person because I've built a brand of trust. So now, just by me taking that picture of a person, or by me taking a selfie with someone and talking about my experience with them, that now ingratiates that person to my community.
Mm.
And what do we want to do? We are reciprocal beings. When somebody
Yes,
does something for you, what do you want to do? You want to do something for them. So now
exactly.
that person will become a champion for you in a room, in a place, in a setting where it could be really beneficial to you. So first is a champion. The second type of person is a collaborator. So a collaborator is really important when you walk into a networking event because again, we could be going after the same type of client, right? We could both be going after coaches and consultants who make, $250,000 to $500,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
But if I am a marketing strategist that does that, and you are a sales coach that does that, instead of us coming at each other and trying to sell each other our services as clients, why don't we come together and figure out how we can serve our clients better together?
That's good. Mm-hmm.
Why don't we come together and figure out how I can bring you into my audience because I don't do sales coaching and have them, because it's your audience too. We know we serve the same person. Have
Mm-hmm.
them get to know you as a digital marketer, and then you reciprocate that.
Mm.
That's still a win. That's still getting us to the client, but now we're getting to the bag together.
Yeah.
So when you go to an event, yeah, you want to look for clients because there are going to be people that need what you have. They're going to be people that are going to be a good fit for your services. They're going to be people that are ideal clients. But a lot of times we miss out on a larger number of clients by coming at everybody like we are trying to sell every single person our product or our service without figuring out a way that we can be supportive to them and also create a mutually valuable type of relationship.
Yeah, 100%. And even when you're working on larger contracts too, as small business owners, we don't necessarily have the team to go after a larger contract. So it's great to even have people who have different skill sets, but serve the same audiences so that you can, connect with each other, collaborate with each other. Like you said, get the bag, right? I'm in events and I might need someone in the marketing. I might need someone in PR. I might need somebody else in,
Right.
graphics or whatever the case may be. So I think just expanding your circle of influence. And I feel like this is a message to me too, because, I love staying up in this house sometimes. And even
Girl,
though
listen,
I am
come on over to the Success Tribe Network. We your people. Listen, I like to be in the house
listen,
too.
yeah. And so it's like I have to, I really feel like COVID has shifted my networking energy. Whereas before I used to always be out, I'm going to different networking events or different spaces where I could connect with people. And after COVID, it's just like that energy has
Let me tell
diminished
you.
significantly.
Let me
So,
tell you,
you know,
I've never been that person. I've never been the
mm,
person that wanted to go out to the networking events.
really?
I've never
Okay.
been the
Okay.
person that wanted to be at all the things. So
Hmm.
what COVID did for me is it actually gave me the ability and I tell people all the time, they don't believe me, I am an introvert, but it gave me the
Hmm.
ability as an introvert to network and find a way to network that actually
Hmm.
energized
Mm. Talk
me,
about
right?
that then. Talk about that. How do you network in a way that energizes you? And particularly, how do you network online? Because we follow people, right? And we might like connect and comment and things like that. But
Girl,
how do you
look,
connect with people virtually?
that's a whole master class. I'm gonna give you a little bit. I'm gonna
Well, give
give
me a
you a
little
little bit.
tidbit.
And then when you join the Success Tribe Network, I give you the whole thing, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
ultimately, networking online
Hmm.
is know, like, and trust all over again, right?
Right.
So how do people typically, when you say networking online, what do they say? Oh, I followed that person. Oh, I friended them. What would it
Yes.
look like for you to go into a networking event, an in-person networking event, shake somebody's hand, and then walk away? That's what you do
Yes.
when you
Yes.
just connect or follow somebody. Or
Yes.
even worse, what would it look like if you shook somebody's hand and then just followed them around the room and didn't say nothing? How does
That
that look?
sounds so crazy, but it's true.
That's what you do when you just like, all right,
Like,
I'm gonna
are
connect to
you
this
a
person. I'm
stalker?
gonna fall back. It's like you the creepy person in the corner,
Yes,
right?
exactly. The lurker.
Right. You don't want to be the lurker,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's all about building know, like, and trust. So the first
Mhm.
thing that you do step one is I consider social media to be like an ecosystem. I consider social media for me, like my platform and my profile, to be like my home. If I would not invite you to my home, whether it's outside or inside, right? Because we like to entertain, then I'm not going to add you to my social media. If for some reason you are in my home or you are on my social media and something happens or you say or you do something, or I feel like there's not alignment, I'm going to ask you to leave, right? The same way that I'm going to clean out my social media list when I see those things pop up, right? So the first thing is curating an ecosystem so that you can know that the content that you are creating and that you're posting, you've curated your ecosystem in such a way that the engagement on your stuff creates conversations.
Okay.
Post content that creates conversations. Because after you go back and forth, we all seen it on Facebook. After you go back and forth with somebody in the DMs, like in a positive way, right? Y'all cheering each other on like 3 or 4 times in the DMs. Y'all cousins now, right? Like every time that person's stuff come up, you're like, oh, that's my girl. You ain't never met him a day. You're like, oh, that's my girl.
Yep.
So create things that have conversations, right? Content that has conversations. And then the next part is personalize your engagement. Okay. So after you're going back and forth with somebody and you see that somebody's following your stuff a lot or they're reacting to it, go in the DMs and thank them for that. Don't go in there to pitch them. Go in to thank them. Start a conversation in the DMs. When you start that conversation in the DMs, that's your opportunity to be curious about that person. And then the final piece is you can stay in the DMs or you could take that conversation offline. This is a part that I had to add in for myself because I was real good at getting in the DMs, getting on a coffee chat, keeping it moving, right? Having conversations. What I realized was that starting to find ways to take these conversations offline, again, with a really niche down targeted person who is either a champion, collaborator, or potential client for me, that is what has accelerated my networking. So I'll give you a quick example. I'm going to tell you how I ended up at Taria's event. So I didn't know who Taria was at all. I had created a relationship with Taria Avant, and this is an event that I was at just a few weeks ago, right? Taria Avant in Atlanta. I had created a relationship with somebody that was at that specific event, right? And at that specific event, somebody said my name in the room. I went to this event in Atlanta just a few weeks ago, and I had the opportunity to speak on stage. And by being on Taria's stage, what ended up happening is that it created all these other opportunities for me because I took that conversation offline. Same thing with Jasmine's event, the event that we met at, right? Met her online. She said that she had this specific initiative going on. We went back and forth, on threads in the DMs. I told her how much I appreciated what it was that she did. And then what ended up happening? She says, hey, I have this opportunity. I invested in the opportunity. It was a no-brainer investment. And then when she said, hey, now there's a chance to come and meet in person, I took the extra step to get on a plane and to fly out for the event. Think about the amount of know, like, and trust that was built between me and the event organizer. But think about the fact that I went to that event, and because of the fact that I was at that event, that's why we're here now. That event is still creating dividends. If we would have just been in a Zoom room, or if I would have just participated in the group on Facebook, you and I wouldn't have had an opportunity to actually connect in a way that stands out. Curate your ecosystem with people that you would be okay with inviting to your house or to an event, right? Maybe if it's not your house, to an event. Create content that actually engages people and creates conversations where people can get to know your personality. So know, like, and
Mm-hmm.
And then find opportunities to build trust. Do something that is extraordinary. Do something, tell people all the time, do something inconvenient.
Mm-hmm.
The more inconvenient the thing is, the more likely it is that you're going to get a big ROI on it.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's really good. And I loved, that you kind of shared those particular examples. And not only that, you shared the process, right, with those examples, because I think it allows us to see a broader perspective of how building relationships can impact not only your personal life, but your business, and how those connections, you don't even know where those connections are going to lead you, but it could lead you in a direction that could work for your own business growth. And
It
so
is.
I really loved how you shared not only curating your ecosystem, but how you curate those relationships to build deeper relationships with people, and how from those deeper relationships, opportunities come from it and it expands.
And
Yeah.
you keep it
Yeah.
going. You
Yeah.
don't just reach out to people when you need something. You reach out
Mm-hmm.
to people when you see a resource that they can use. You reach out to
Yeah.
people to congratulate them on
Mm-hmm.
an event or on a
Mm-hmm.
win. You reach
Yeah.
out to people when you meet somebody that reminds you of them and you think that they would make a good connection. So that
Mm-hmm.
now when you reach out with the ask, I have a rule because I get
Yeah.
people's cell phone. So I have a rule. If I look at a text
Mm-hmm.
message thread that I have with somebody and I'm going to make an ask, hey, could you introduce me to somebody?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, are you interested in this service? Hey, could you connect me to someone? If I
Mm-hmm.
look at the thread and I see that there have not been at least 3 other interactions where I have given something, given praise, given
Mm-hmm.
accolades, given a connection, I
That's
don't make the
fabulous.
ask.
Yeah.
I don't make the ask.
Mm. Oh, that's good. Yeah. If I haven't provided value in some way to you, then I'm not going to make the ask.
I'm not
Yeah.
going to
Oh,
make
that's
the
good.
ask because
That's
I haven't
good.
earned
That's
the
good.
right.
Yeah, yeah, because you have people who are takers, 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 right? And so what you're saying is, how is this a reciprocal relationship, and how am I the cause of reciprocation, right? I could be
How
the
we
first mover of this reciprocation. I don't have to
Absolutely,
wait for
how we
somebody else
creating
to
mutual
send me
value.
something. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I think sometimes people are like, well, what did you do for me? But it's like, well, what did you do for them? So I think that that is such a perspective shift when we think about building relationships and how we provide value for people without them having to ask, or before we go in for the ask. So
that's how
yeah,
you
thank you
up
for
the
saying
line.
that. Yeah,
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 we were
yeah.
just talking about the situation where we were talking about you were saying somebody you had reached out to them for a year, right? And I was
Yeah.
saying something that I train within sales is that it actually takes 7 to 9 reach outs,
Right.
right?
And I was like, wait a
For
minute,
you
what?
Yeah,
I think I
girl,
followed up like
7
three
to
times, and I was
9,
like, okay, they're not getting back to me. That's it. But
7 to
based on what
9.
you said, you're right. Yeah. Reach out
And
some
do
more.
you know
Yeah.
the average person, they give up after number 3.
Yeah. See? Some out here leaving money on the table
Leaving
because
money
I'm
on the
not
table.
following up beyond that 3. So I hope that this is resonating with some of you guys in terms of, not getting stopped. I know that some people might even get stopped by the first time. Like, well, they haven't gotten back to me, they haven't responded, and so they're perhaps not even interested. And so, just keep following up. And like you said, it's about like those different touch points. So keep going. 7 to 9. I wouldn't have thought that that was the case, because somewhere in there it's like, well, at this point, am I bothering the person, right? But
So,
but but, but with your sales experience, that there is a metric and a standard to that. So that goes to say that we need to keep doing it.
and remember, it's not 7 to 9 of the same message. So that's
Right.
the
Yes.
part where
Let's
people
clarify that.
screw up, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's not 7 times you saying, "Hey, did you get my email? Hey, did you get my email?" No.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is, and the advent of social media has made it so much easier to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Mm-hmm.
do this with corporate clients. I will meet somebody, I will send them a text message. First of all, I ask if I can have that. Yeah, no problem. You can have
Mm-hmm.
my cell phone number. I'll send them a text message with a photo of us together so that
Mm-hmm.
now when they see my name
I
pop up, they know
remember.
who I am. They remember where
Yeah.
we are together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if they have agreed to a meeting or a next step or whatever, and they don't respond right away, you know what I do? I go and because I've already followed them on social media, I'll
Yeah.
go and I'll engage with one of their social media posts.
Yeah.
That's a follow-up. That's an engagement. It's just a touch
Mm-hmm.
point for you to stay top of mind,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
they're
then
like,
they
oh,
don't
I just remembered so and so reached out to me, or whatever the case may be. Or that's a good point.
exactly. So
That's very
then
good.
for some reason they don't reach out, then I may direct message them on that
Mm-hmm.
platform, right? Because I message
Mm-hmm.
them on the cell phone. Now I might direct message them on that platform after going ahead and creating, whatever. Then
Mm-hmm.
the next engagement would be another message on the platform, but it would be more around a give. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
I saw your recent post and said that you were looking for some hiring best practices. I'd love to connect you to one of these people. Here are their profiles. Let me know if you're interested in
Mm,
connecting to them. Now,
mm.
as they go through that process, they're gonna be like, "Oh man, that was so nice. Oh my god, I forgot to reach out. I
Yeah.
forgot to follow up."
Yes.
That by
Yes.
itself, a lot of times what I'll
Yes.
do is I'll send that, and what I'll see within 10 minutes is somebody uses the original link to book a
Mm-hmm.
call with me because they're like, "Oh,
Mm.
snap, I forgot," right?
Yeah. Now you're back at top of mind again. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
back top of mind. And then they come back in and they're like, "Oh my God, thank you so much. I love an introduction to this person. Also, just got on your calendar."
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Love it. Oh, that's
So
great.
it's
That's great.
it's about not being lazy with the marketing,
Yeah. Yeah.
really being intentional and
Yeah.
focusing on the consultative part and the relationship part.
So you have a framework that I love for us to get into. It's called the Goals, Gifts, and Gaps framework. Can
Yes.
you talk a bit about that and how that supports business owners with collaborating?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been talking about it a little bit already, but goals, gifts, and gaps is
Okay.
something that
Okay.
I have been doing all of my life without me realizing that it was goals, gifts, and gaps, right? Before I actually gave it a
A
name.
particular framework in the
Yeah,
same way that we were having this conversation without us framing it. Okay, got it.
without framing it, right? And ultimately,
Right.
what it comes
Mhm.
down to is if you are a networker, the next time that you go into any networking situation, this is a framework that can help you to identify how to take opportunities to the next step. It starts off with first making sure that you're clear on your goal for going to that event. We'll use the event that we met at. So when I went to Jasmine's event, there were a few goals that I had. One is I wanted to support her because I wanted to deepen my relationship with her because I knew that we could build some strong collaboration together. But
Mhm.
collaboration starts with know, like, and trust. So by me going to that event, I was building trust with her by investing in that. My second goal was to expand my network with people who are like Jasmine, people who are in her space.
Right.
So just by being in that space, I knew that if they were attached to her, just like you said earlier, it's more
Yeah.
likely that these are
Like-minded.
the type of people I'm looking for, right?
Right.
So those
Mhm.
were two of my goals. The next part is I said, all right, these are my goals. What is my gift? What is the thing that I can give that will actually create a mutually valuable beginning to a collaboration? A lot of times, this is the thing that we overthink, but your gift is the thing that you do really, really naturally. My gift, or the gift that I decided to leverage, was my gift of connection. My gift of connection. So every single point throughout the process, I found a deeper way to connect with Jasmine, but I also found a way to connect her to other people.
Mm.
That now has gotten her attention because it's like, oh, I knew this person. Now I like this person. And I'm
Right.
getting
Right.
close to trusting this person because they're
Mhm.
giving, right? And then the last part is when you walk into a networking situation, understanding your gap. This is a lot of times the part that people actually allow to pull them back. It's the reason that they don't go to the event. It's the reason that they don't start the business. It's the reason that they don't approach the brand because there is something that they don't have yet that they feel like they need.
Mhm.
I would start the business if I had more funding. I would start the business if I knew more about accounting. I would launch the event if I had done one before, right?
Yep. 100%.
Right? I would launch the event if I had a team. I would apply for that job if I checked all of the boxes.
Right. Right.
In this situation, you take all of those if I, all the things that keep you from taking action, and that's the thing that you seek out in your networking.
Mm.
That's the thing that you seek out in your network. So you actually show up to find people that will fill in your gaps.
Right. Oh, that's
Right.
powerful. That's powerful. Yep. Yep.
And now your gap becomes your superpower. Why? Because the thing now that is your gap, guess what? It's somebody else's gift.
Yeah.
And what do we know about our gifts? We want to give them.
Mm-hmm.
It's our
Mm-hmm.
currency.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now you're clear on your goal, why you came there. You're clear on your gift, the thing that you're going to use as your currency in that situation. And you're clear on the gap, what you're going there looking for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And remember, it doesn't always have to be a client. It could be referral partners. It could be
Mm-hmm.
somebody to be on your podcast. It could
Mm-hmm.
be somebody that has access to funding. It could be somebody you're looking to hire.
Yeah.
So using that framework is a way to simplify and demystify the networking process, and honestly, to cut away from small talk.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Because you know exactly what it is that you're looking for. You're going into the situation intentionally. But beyond that, I think it's also you becoming more self-aware, right?
That's
As opposed to I'm going to go to that event because so and so is going to be there. But what is the goal for you going? And I think that the gap part of it, I could definitely see how that could be a challenge for a lot of people because it's like I don't even know what the gap is, right? That could be the thing for some people. But if you sit with it long enough to say, all right, well, what is the gap that I'm trying to fill right now in my business or my life, however you want to approach it, then I think you'll be able to see that thing more clearly. And so when you go into these networking situations or you go to these events and you're more clearly able to identify who is someone that you might want to connect with or collaborate with. And then so
yeah.
let's talk about, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and that's where community comes in too.
Right,
Having a
right.
community, having people that you can brainstorm with, having a safe place to come in and say, I don't even know what my gap is, or this is my gap.
Yeah,
And that's part
yeah,
of what makes our network super powerful too, is that community
yeah.
focus.
You can connect with people and just like brainstorm with them for sure. So let's talk about the conflicts or disagreements that might come up out of collaborations. I've
Mhm.
collaborated with people before, and it was going good, and then somewhere along the line, it did not work out so well, right? And a part of it for me, what I had realized in those situations is that there were no clear agreements up front, right? Clear agreements in terms of, well, what is the expectation of you? What is the expectation of me? And so by the time we got to the conflict, it was such a muddied water that we're in conflict or we're in disagreement. And now we just have to overcome that, but we don't necessarily know what caused the conflict. Like both people are feeling salty on both ends, right? So talk about how to deal with conflict. Let's say I decide to collaborate with someone. You were talking earlier about, you might find someone who's a salesperson, someone who's a marketing person. You could collaborate on a project to, broaden or expand your audience. Right? Let's say within that collaboration, it's monetary, right? Or it might not
Mhm.
even be monetary. It could potentially lead to monetary. So how do
Right.
you deal with in situations like that? How do you deal with conflicts or disagreements that might arise?
Yeah, that's a good one. So I am a huge advocate for making sure that you have legal agreements in place,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're exchanging money. There's no
Mm-hmm.
way around it. So before and also, I am also a huge advocate for starting small, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's
So,
good.
right? So, for example, like I always encourage people to go into collaboration with something that's low risk, but is mutually valuable, like exactly what we're doing right now, a podcast,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It gives you the opportunity to start off, first of all, and learn. So you can learn so much about a person by inviting them to your podcast, about being on someone's podcast. You can figure out how organized their back end systems are.
Mm-hmm.
What are their communication strengths? How well do they communicate? Do they show up on time or not? Do they follow through on what they say that they're going to do? So, do they honor their commitments?
Mm-hmm.
How well do y'all vibe together? Like, can y'all actually vibe together?
Yeah. Yeah. Energy for me is super important. Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
All
Beyond
of
beyond some of
those,
the things that you talk about, that's important. Mm-hmm.
right? all of those things are just like the starting point that you and I are learning about each other just through doing this high level collaboration, right? Do I like their personality? So the
Yeah,
first thing
yeah.
that I say to mitigate or to avoid large conflict is to start off with something that is easy and mutually valuable. And then to grow
Mm-hmm.
from there. And then to grow from there. And little by little, there are different stages. And we talk about that within our network, like different stages of collaboration. So that's one piece of advice I would give. Another piece of advice that I would give is anytime that there's money involved, you have to have agreements. You have to have agreements. You have to, and you can use goals, gifts, and gaps, actually. Because the goals, gifts, and gaps is all inclusive. You can use that to
Mm-hmm.
create your agreements too. What is the goal of this collaboration? Gifts. Basically, what are my responsibilities? What are your responsibilities? Right?
What
Gaps.
are
What
yours?
are the gaps? What are the areas that we need to fill in? Right? We may have it all mapped out, but then we're saying here, we're saying, all right, well, hold on, who's gonna hold the money? All right, you have an accountant, you have a CPA, I don't. Okay, that goes into your bucket, right? Put it in escrow, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
Who's gonna draw up the agreement? So make sure that you have clear boundaries, and it's even more important when you're collaborating with friends or family to have clear
100%.
boundaries and expectations.
Yeah, because sometimes, especially with friends and family members, you're like, oh, well, we're cool. So we could just go in and do the thing together. But then you're not thinking about what's the long term implication of something like that. What happens if there is a disagreement? How do you mitigate that situation? So I'm glad that you shared starting off small, seeing how you actually vibe with the person, collaborate with the person, how the person shows up, seeing who the person is prior to you doing something bigger. So can you talk about how do you track your metrics with regards to collaboration? Do you have like a particular system? If you're building a relationship with someone, for example, if you do like a collab chat or you do a coffee chat, how are you tracking some of those things? Or does it even matter?
I think it's important for everyone to have some type of system for tracking. So for some people, that might be
Okay.
as simple as like a Google Doc where you're keeping up with people that you are engaging with and like what the follow up is. And then you have people like Taria Vaughn, who she actually has a planner that specifically can be used for networking and collaborations, where you write things down inside of the planner. And then
Love
you
that.
have like project management software, like an Asana, where you can go in and be able to create
Hmm.
different projects for what you're doing. So I do recommend that there's a tracking system because remember, it can take you 7 to 9 times, right? To follow up and
Correct.
so you gonna forget.
Right.
So
Right.
wow,
Right. Right.
what's happening? So I
Yeah.
definitely recommend having a tracking
Hit
system.
me with the reminder. Hey, I got to follow up with so and so.
Yeah, one of the things that I do is I do a calendar audit. So every week, I audit the last
Okay.
6 weeks of appointments in my calendar. And all that audit means is I look at the last 6 weeks. Every week, I look at the previous 6 weeks and I look to see everybody that I had some type of appointment with. And I look to see if there's a follow up that I did not complete. And that is a simple way,
Mm-hmm.
but a good
Mm-hmm.
way. Because remember, since I do it every 6 weeks, there are people that I get to touch or engage with almost every week.
Thank you for sharing that. So, is there anything that you have, any upcoming initiative or projects that you're working on with the Success Tribe right now?
I just encourage people, the Success Tribe Network is open all year long. So I encourage people to go to thesuccesstribe.com and to jump in the Success Tribe Network. We are a collaborative community of amazing thought leaders and awesome experts. And we are all about getting to the bag together. We believe in collaboration over competition. So that's open all year round. So definitely jump in there. I'd love to chat with you. Because of how focused I am on collaboration, a lot of my one-on-one engagement comes directly from that group. So if you're feeling the vibe, then we would definitely love to see you there, me and my team. And then we have our fall international retreat. We're going to be going to Punta Cana in October of 2024. That is
Ooh.
almost out, but if folks are watching this and they're like, yeah, I want to go all in on collaboration and I want to be in a luxurious retreat environment with other powerhouses. And we're going to be talking about leveraging collaboration through speaking. How can you leverage collaboration to get on more stages, be in more podcasts, How can you leverage relationships to enhance your visibility through your voice and speaking? So if folks are interested in that, then you can go ahead and hit me up in the DMs. I'm at Deana Jean on LinkedIn as well as Facebook, and I'm on Your Collab Queen on Instagram.
Love it. And we'll also have all those links in the show notes as well. So before you go, Deana, what is one last gem you'd like to leave us with? That could be personal or business related, collab related, whatever your heart is called to speak about right now.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. This has been
You're
so
welcome.
great.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun. There are three things that I typically tend to say to my clients when they're leaning into collaboration, because a lot of times collaboration can feel very, very vulnerable. And I tell them to consider three things. The first thing to consider is that in collaboration, done is always better than perfect. So if you're considering reaching out to somebody right now, just get it done. Don't try to make it perfect. The more that you do it, the more that you'll be able to improve it. The next thing that I tell folks is, you cannot make progress in a process that you don't participate in. So do the thing. Get in there and do the thing, right? Because that's what's going to have you make progress and get you closer and closer to your goal. And then the last thing that I tell people is to give yourself grace, to extend to your grace extend to yourself the same level of grace that you extend to others. And whatever you're doing in life or in business, if you can just follow those 3 points, follow those 3 adages, you're going to see that collaboration and abundance is going to follow you everywhere you go.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing those gems. And thank you for being on the Event Gems podcast. I hope that you all got so many nuggets from this conversation. I feel like we dove deep into ways that you can collaborate. What are some of the things that you should avoid when collaborating, or some of the things that you need to look out for so that you don't have disagreements in the long term? Be sure to check out Deana's Success Tribe. And until next time, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please like, share, and subscribe. I hope you caught these gems. Now let's fly.